As we're in Season 3 of Marvel Rivals, it's time to criticize the strategists in this game, and I've been promising this video for a long time, and I want to give the disclosure here that I love playing strategists. It's my favorite role, and I'm Lord in almost all the strategists except for Adam and Jeff, okay? So please just take what I say very seriously, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be a hypocrite here. There are things that people do to ruin matches as strategists, and the first thing I can think of that people do is that as a strategist, they play as a DPS, and focus not on healing but just trying to get kills. These could be people that are normally playing DPS players and they just have to play strategists because no one else will, and they're flexing a bit, but they're just upset. Or there's just people who approach strategists that way and they just want to get kills and not heal the team. It's just very detrimental. I mean, it goes without saying when people are like, GG, no heals. And sometimes it's because these strategists are being hit by divers all the time, but that's really not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people who just focus on trying to get kills, and it's really annoying. And I swear, if I play a game and I'm a tank and I see a strategist in front of me fighting on the front line, I crash out. I mean, I just go crazy. It's just so annoying. So it just hurts the team. I don't think people should approach the game this way unless they're playing quick play and they just want to play around and get to learn the skills of the strategist. And some strategists like Mantis have really good DPS attacks, and I'm not saying don't use this at all. It's just that the key is that you need to know when to use them. If there's an opportunity to lay in and get that extra damage to finish off a character or help melt down a tank, I understand that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about people who just don't heal. They're just not oriented towards healing other players and supporting other players, and those people do not belong on strategists. So I think I've said enough about that. The next thing people do that ruin games as strategists is they have bad positioning. And this can be, for example, not using the map or angles to make sure you're staying out of enemy fire. I see a lot of strategists get melted because they're just standing in the middle lane and they're in plain view of the other players. And it's knowing how the other players operate in the match. If you've got a squirrel girl lobbing acorns to the back of your team, that is not a good place for you to stand to be healing your team. So you need to find better places and be creative and just take a second to observe and think and use some critical thinking skills to figure out where it is that you need to be in order to best heal your team and just avoid being picked off. Bad positioning can also be how you handle divers. If you're a strategist and you've got a diver coming in, if you back up further towards your spawn away from your front line, then that's what the divers want. They want to separate you from the team so they could just have their way with you. So the best thing to do is, again, adjust your positioning. And if you have a team that's really dive heavy, and I am going to do a video about handling divers because that's a really big topic. It's not dead, it's more alive than ever, despite what anyone says about this game. But if you've got a diver coming back, you really need to make sure you position yourself closer to your front line so that if that diver comes in, there's a great chance they're going to be noticed by other members of your team and be punished for getting back there or burn their cooldowns and have to go back to their own back line. So positioning is everything in this game. It's not necessarily about skill per se. I mean, it is, skill's important, but really, again, it's this mindset of knowing where you need to be on the map at all times, knowing what the enemy team is doing and adjusting your positioning for that to make sure that as a strategist you can heal and stay alive. This next one is a big one. It's picking the wrong character for your team composition. You really need to think carefully about who you're picking to do the healing, and I will beat this drum and I will die on this hill that if you're a one-trick pony, even with a strategist, there's just no way that you're going to make it to higher ranks. You really need to be able to play different strategists for different roles. And just to give you an example of a terrible team composition, if someone is playing Jeff, which I most of the time find pretty questionable as a strategist personally, if you pick Loki, for example, as the second strategist, then you can copy Jeff's ult, supposedly, but really Loki ideally is going to be best to copy Cloak and Dagger or Luna Snow or Invisible Woman or some other ult that can really change the tide of the battle. I'm not saying it's not possible to win, but again, team composition is important. Also, if you have a team with a lot of flyers, Loki is not very good at healing flyers in the air. That's one example. Also, another example is if you got a team that's getting burst down with incredible amounts of damage, then playing Mantis may not be the best choice because she just can't keep up with the amount of damage that your tanks are getting, for example, and they are going to die a lot quicker, and your team's going to get frustrated and tilted, and you're going to most likely lose the match. The next thing I see strategists do that can ruin a ranked match is that they ignore tanks or DPS players or, whoever is that they're supposed to be healing. In other words, they just choose to pocket one player and focus on that player and keep that player alive, and the other people on the team don't get the heals. A good strategist will be able to look at all the health bars and focus on, first and foremost, you want to heal your other strategist and keep them alive. That way your team isn't down to one healer and can lose the battle. The next thing you want to do is focus your tanks. Make sure your tanks' hit points are up to 75% or above. And then you want to look at your DPS players and make sure that they're getting heals as well. And ideally, as a great strategist, you want to be able to spread your healing around as quickly as possible. And your team also does need to play in a tighter formation. And I do make it clear to people, if I can't see you, I can't heal you. So if people are stupid and take off battles on their own in secluded areas where you can't reach them, that's one thing. But if your team is within visible range and you can heal them and reach them with your heals, then it's your responsibility to make sure that everyone gets heals. And sometimes that means you need to switch off someone that you're healing and heal the other person to get back, and then get back to finish the person that you're healing. So it's like juggling a bunch of balls in the air or spinning a bunch of plates on sticks, as you used to see people do in these old shows. You've got to keep a lot of things going at once. It takes a lot of mental load and mental acuity to be able to play a strategist and pay attention to all these things at once. The next way I see strategists ruin ranked matches is they just die way too much. Now, I get it. You've got a Black Panther or someone that's diving you and they're really good and you have a hard time surviving and your team is not helping you and that kind of stuff. I get that. That's a topic for another video. But really what I'm talking about is that people who play strategists, they lack a lot of people who play strategists, they just lack the survival instinct to know that you are going to be targeted by every single other person on the enemy team. And there's this tunnel vision for most players who play this game that they think the object of the game is to get the strategist first and foremost. And I actually don't think that this is the best way to play Marvel Rivals in every single match. I think it's folly, and I think a lot of your team battles are lost and matches are lost because you've got players on the team just focused on that one thing and not other things. And that really is a topic for another video, but really, as a strategist, you're going to get targeted, okay? That's what I'm trying to say, is that everyone's going to try to kill you, and you need to see someone coming at you immediately from a long distance away, and you need to know where to go, what to do, what cooldowns to use. You need to time your cooldowns and be selfish with your cooldowns. If you're not getting a lot of support and you're getting people targeting you a lot, then you need to spend more of your cooldowns to keep yourself alive. And there are some strategists that are better suited for that type of thing, and again, that's for another video about surviving divers that I'm going to be working on at some point here. But really, you just need to be able to survive. So again, like I said earlier, you need to pick your angles, you need to know your positioning, you need to play near other players, you need to watch the enemy team and see what they're doing to try to take you out and be able to just survive so that you can heal other players. You need to know the map really well, you need to know places to hide if you need to, or places to escape. It's just survival instinct, and it is a mental load to take on when you play this game, and it could be why a lot of people do not like to play strategists. But you just can't have a match where you have a strategist dying 10 times and the rest of the team is dying like 2 or 3 times. It just means that there's something wrong with that game, or there's something wrong with the player playing the strategist in that case, and they just have no survival instinct, and they're making some of the mistakes that I mentioned earlier in this video. Another way strategists are ruining ranked matches is that they don't communicate well, and that involves pinging divers, or they using the text or voice chat or anything to let the team know what they're struggling with, what they need help with, who they're focusing on. There needs to be a lot of communication. And as a strategist, you get a view of the battlefield that your DPS players and tanks don't get. You get to see the entire battle. You get to see what the enemy players are doing. You get to see what other players on your team are doing, and you get to see where the battles are being fought, whether they're tight together in formation or where the battles are being one-off and your team's too spread out. And you need to be able to communicate to your team that, hey, there's a problem here. Everyone's spread out too much, or that everyone is choosing to target, the wrong players, that you need to focus on the tank together, or you're not pinging enough divers that are coming in to let your team know that you're having a hard time, or that maybe you have 3 divers to handle and your team is just going out trying to hit their strategists and missing those 3 divers that are giving you a hard time. So I know it could be really frustrating at times, but you see the whole entire battle, and that is really an advantage. And a player who plays a strategist who sees the entire battle and sees the overall strategy of what the enemy team is doing and is able to make calls on what that team is doing, and advising your team on who to switch to and how to handle your formation and priority targeting and things like that, or even determining who's using their ults and who's going to use their ult next. All that type of stuff, all of that goes into being a strategist. And if you communicate that, you've got a huge advantage over the other team, and your chances of winning are going to skyrocket. Okay, this next one is a really big one, and it's that strategists aren't using their ults appropriately, or they're using them at the wrong time, or they're not timing them correctly. Whatever it is, these ults for these strategists are game-changing ults. They can change the tide of the battle, and if you don't use them at the right time, then you're just wrecking the whole match for your team. This is a huge issue. Now, the enemy team will try to get you to use your ult early because they're going to target you, and they're going to want you to pop your ult in order to save your own neck, and that can be really mentally challenging. It's sometimes better as a strategist just to take the loss and get killed and respawn, and to save that ult for a more crucial moment like holding a point or overtime, etc. I've been in matches when me and the other player who are strategists don't communicate, and we both pop our ults at the same time, and it's a huge waste because yes, maybe it can help that battle, but then the next battle we don't have the ults to save our team, to protect them against another enemy ult that we're countering. So that's another mistake that we make as strategists, and we want to avoid that at all costs. I mean, so many teams can be saved if you just waited to use your ult. For your Invisible Woman, for example, and Storm uses her ult, or Star-Lord uses his ult, if you use your Invisible Shield at that point, that can really save your team. And I am not a fan of using ults usually to push. Sometimes I just like to use them defensively because you know you've got some ults on the other team that are just going to clear and wipe most of your team. Again, this is all about team composition and understanding what the other players are doing, what the other team strategy is, and planning accordingly. And if you have no concept of that and you're just going to be a robot and play this game just burning out through your cooldowns and your ults over and over again without any regard to what's going on in the game or what the other team strategy is, then you're just really not helping your team at all. You're just causing problems, and again, you're going to just help your team lose the match. I believe there should be an honorable mention here at the end that choosing characters for strategists that have good team up abilities that complement your DPS players and tanks is really important, and it can really help make other people on your team really happy. So to give you an example, if someone's playing Moon Knight, then choose Cloak and Dagger to get that team up. If someone's playing Penny, please play Rocket. That is an amazing team up. And so things like that can make a huge difference. And it's one of those things you have to juggle as you play strategist, and goes in line with being able to flex and play different characters and not be a one-trick pony. That's really the bottom line of this game, is don't play it one way. Don't play just one character and be only good at that character. It's going to be hard on your team. It's going to be hard for you to reach high ranks. That's it for this one. Have I missed anything? Are there other things that strategists are doing that drive you crazy? I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Do you disagree with some of the stuff I'm saying? Are you a one-trick pony and you think it's the only way to go, and you've made Eternal and you just want to just show off and prove me wrong? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear back from all of you on this. And if you really enjoy hearing my opinionated rants on Marvel Rivals and games like this, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It means the world to me, and we'll see you next time.